said, really? He said, oh yeah, same thing as I said. He said, it's not just, hi, how are you, nice to see you. He says, people are really, really friendly. They wanna know if they can help you. They wanna know if there's something they can do for you. He said, it's just great. He said, well, I said, and I'm hearing that from patients, he said, well, I had one guy that said to me, why the hell do you wanna come to Massena? He said, I won't tell you his name. I said, please do so I can go punch him. I said, I'd like to know who it was. Cause that's what I mean though about attitude, right? Why on earth would you go to a doctor who just came here and say, don't know why the hell you wanna come to Massena? Well, you live here, for God's sake. Why do you live here? There must be some reason why you live here. So to have that kind of attitude, we don't need that kind of attitude, and I would hope that we can, and I know people are discouraged, and I know they feel that we're in a major downturn, they see all the houses for sale, but I don't think that's gonna last forever. And again, alcohol is a huge part of that. If we have that negative decision in 19, we're gonna be even a bigger challenge to retool our economy. But we can't just sit here and say, oh, no, things are terrible, we're done, and throw up our hands, that's all. No, we can't do that, and I'm not gonna do that. I haven't so far, I'm not going to.
Joe, it's like you said earlier though, when Don Messner is down north of New York, and people don't know where the St. Lawrence River is, just think how many people in Syracuse don't realize that, for example, that the Almanzo Wilder Farm is in Burke.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
Or that the Mohawk Reservation here was part of the Iroquois Confederacy.
Yeah, yeah.
You know?
Yeah,
It's, there are 1,000 small things that would draw people here for a week, just traveling to look, you know, even maybe it's 70 miles away, they'd go up to Lake Placid.
Sure.
But if they were here because they want to maybe be close to the river, and they drive back and forth,
sure.
That's what helps the country if you want to go for tourism.
Yeah.
It's when they drive through because they want to go to Plattsburgh or something, or they want to go see the granite quarry over in Barre, Vermont.
Yeah.
We miss out completely. The idea is, once they get into St. Lawrence County, have them stop here, instead of being here 12 hours, make them here for 48 hours or more.
We had a director of the Chamber of Commerce a few years ago, and her idea was have Massena be the hub for a vacation, right? Come and stay in Massena. You can take a day trip to Lake Placid, you can take a day trip to the Thousand Islands, you can take a day trip to Ottawa, day trip to Montreal. And I think that makes a lot of sense. But the other thing we need to fix, the problem we have right now, and again, especially when it comes to fishing and tourism, is amenities. Believe it or not, there are not enough motel rooms in Massena. No, there are not enough really, I mean, the hotel is full most weekends, which is great, thank God. But we need people that can where you can rent a boat, where you can rent a sea-doo, whatever. And those are some niches I think that individual entrepreneurs, if they want to take a chance, could fill. But again, it's not going to happen when you sit at home on the computer, right? You got to get out there. You got to take a risk. You got to risk some of your own money. You certainly got to invest a whole bunch of your time, a huge amount of time. So I'm not ready to turn out the lights on Massena by any means. I don't think any of it is. But again, we need to. If you hear somebody talking about it on Massena, cuff them in the head or something, and step on their toe, get their attention, and say, hey, look, try not to be so negative, right? Try to be a little more positive about our community. It's still a beautiful community. Let's face it. Physically, it's a beautiful community. We've got some challenges with some of the drug problems we've had. Those are getting cleaned up. I think the police are doing a good job of that.
I do too.
I'd like to see the courts get a little tougher, but that's again beyond our control. We can only control certain things, and we have to do our best to maximize what we do with the things we can't control. The other things, we're never going to control. When alcohol comes or goes, we can't control that. That's not in a boardroom in Pittsburgh or New York or somewhere. It's not going to be.
It's called private enterprise.
Right. That's it. So, anyway, we covered a lot of ground. Anything else?
Yes, we have. And you're not giving up on Massena, and I don't think anybody here is real soon.
Doesn't sound like it. You wouldn't be here if you were.
I want you to be driving the bus.
Well,
so
we'll let the voters decide that on Tuesday.
One thing I'd just like to say, and it'd be a comment. I think you guys on the board are doing a good job on the hospital. We don't know yet how the votes are, and I really don't care. I think you're doing your due diligence on try to do the right thing for the community.
Yeah.
My opinion is the quicker, the better we should privatize.
Yeah.
From the town's point of view, we have our whole town butt to the wind if we get a serious lawsuit involving the hospital. It could very easily bankrupt the town,
Well,
because.
and you know those lawsuits get filed all the time.
Pardon?
You know those lawsuits get filed all the time, I'm sure when you were here. Lawsuits come in, you know, somebody didn't like the care, you know, Aunt Tilly wasn't taken care of properly. We get sued all the time because we own the hospital. My bigger concern, Gary, beyond a lawsuit like that is a big debt from the hospital can't cover. Right now, they're $2.2 million in debt through September, they're that far in debt. I don't
And if
think
they can't pay it, they come to Joe and say, here, I want the
have-
company will say, I want our money.
They have a $4 million pension payment due in December. So right now, for 2017, they are a little over $6 million in the hole right now.
Yeah.
And I don't expect business is gonna be that much better in November, December. And when the piper comes to calling, the town of Massena is on the hook for that money. And it happened, people forget this. I can remember the year, I think it was '87, I was just out of college working at the paper. There was a line on our tax bill to pay off a pension debt the hospital had. They couldn't afford to pay their
I don't
pension.
remember
The
that.
town had to borrow money to pay off the pension.
Yes.
And so, but forget, I don't wanna blame the pension and the employees for everything, it's not their fault. But here's the most important thing with the hospital, Gary. If we do not change the status, there ain't gonna be a hospital here. It is not sustainable in its current form. A town-owned hospital, we're the only one left in New York. I went to a meeting in Albany a few weeks ago, and we're meeting with the deputy commissioner of the Department of Health and one of his staff. And I said, as far as I know, we're the only town-owned hospital in New York. And the staff, they go, I don't think that's true. I said, can you tell me another town-owned hospital? Well, there's down in Suffolk. Oh, no, that's not a town-owned hospital. Well, then there's, that's county-owned. There is not one other town-owned hospital in the state of New York
For a reason.
that I've heard of. It's out there, nobody's told me about it.
That's right.
Clifton Fine was one until recently. The city of Utica, Rome owned one, but they got out of that business 10 years ago, 8 or 10 years ago. There are still some owned by counties, there are some owned by city here or there maybe. And certainly there's the upstate, the ones the state owns, you know,
Yeah.
the state facilities. But as far as I know, Massena Memorial Hospital is the only town-owned hospital left in New York, and there's a reason for that.
It is, you're right, you're absolutely right.
And that needs to change, and people say, oh, you're gonna make it private. No, we're gonna make it not-for-profit, which is what the vast majority of hospitals in the state, and the vast majority of hospitals in the country are, is not-for-profit corporations. That's what this will be when we're done. So,
You know, I've traveled quite a bit being in the military, from Greenland to Alaska and everything in between. I've never lived in a place where a town, was liable for protecting. If you sit down and look at it, you're looking at town-owned hospital, town-owned electrical department, town-owned rescue squad.
yeah.
Look at just those three, look at the liability, the umbrella we got covering them, and if either one of them goes boom, hello, Mr. Taxpayer, Mrs. Taxpayer, we got a little bill for you.
Yeah.
And then you go on to the library,
Yeah,
the town arena,
yeah.
you know? Some kid gets wacko and hits somebody in the head there with a hockey stick, and you know,
Yeah,
That's a homeowner.
and I don't think that people realize what a burden of responsibility is on the town in just those.
I don't disagree, but will also say, a couple of those things are obviously huge benefits. Massena Electric, for example, you know, I was somewhere and we were talking about electric rates, and I said that we're at a little over 4 cents a kilowatt. What? Your electricity is that cheap? We were talking about energy efficiency with the NIPA money at the local government task force, right? I looked at putting a solar array on my roof. By the time, it would take me 20 years to save enough on Massena Electric, my electric bill, to pay for the solar panel, guess what the life expectancy of the solar panel is? 20 years. So I just got it paid off, I can get a new one. And who knows what the technology's gonna be in 20, so I could, and it was gonna cost, you know, $16,000, $18,000, $20,000 for the solar array. So how did I couldn't justify it as a homeowner because my rates were already so low. So there is a liability with Massena Electric, no doubt about it, there's a huge, huge benefit.
Yeah, but, you know, it's called good management.
Yes? Yeah.
We don't have $120,000, $100,000 lawyers working for the National Grid.
Yeah, that's true, yeah.
No, I say, just an example of the responsibility that the
Sure.
town
Oh,
carries.
yeah, it does, there's a huge
And it
risk.
could blow up in your face, and then it affects all the people because they don't really understand it.
There are risky operations, no doubt about it. But- All right, folks, anything else? I really appreciate your time, thank you so much. I'm not gonna tell you who to vote for, but just get out and vote, that's the most important thing on Tuesday. Election day, I think the greatest privilege and right and freedom we have is to elect our officials, our representatives. And too many people don't exercise that right, it frustrates me when we have a 40% turnout in a presidential election or things like that. But hey, it is what it is, I just hope everyone here is registered, and I hope you all go out and vote on Tuesday. Thank you for giving up some of your time to come here.
Thanks for giving us the time, and I appreciate, I think this is the most I've talked in this room since I got out of office. And if it looked like I was yelling at you, I apologize for that.
It's only because I don't let you talk this much at town board meetings, that's why.
You gotta get that PA system up so that we can hear what's going on out here.
See, you don't hear it well enough still?
You know what?
Otherwise, I'm gonna have to get Herbie Goldstein from New York City to come up and, sue you because, I'm under the Disability Act, I can't hear it, so turn your PA up.
Yeah, you gotta